The massive ship hung in space like a dark predator. Its hull was black and covered with scars from 1,000 battles. This was the Dominion's fist, and it belonged to the Krathix Empire. Inside, Captain Zreth stood on the bridge with his arms crossed behind his back. His scales were deep green and his yellow eyes watched the planet below with cold satisfaction. "How many did we capture?" he asked. 417, Captain," replied his second officer. "All healthy. They will sell well at the markets," Zreth nodded slowly. The Villani were a weak species. They had no weapons, no armies, and no way to fight back. Their planet was beautiful, covered in forests and rivers. The Villani themselves looked like tall, slender deer that walked on 2 legs. They had soft brown fur and large, gentle eyes. They were perfect slaves for the Empire's farming colonies. "Any resistance?" Zreth asked. "None, Captain. They ran and hid as expected. We used the stun nets. Not a single casualty on our side." Zreth smiled, showing his sharp teeth. This was his 203rd raid. He had been capturing primitives for 20 years. It was easy work and paid very well. The Krathix Empire ruled this entire sector of space. They had the best weapons, the fastest ships, and the strongest military. No one could stop them. "Prepare the holding cells," Zreth ordered. "I want to jump to hyperspace within the hour." Down in the holding cells, the Villani prisoners huddled together in fear. The cells were cold and made of hard metal. Blue force fields blocked the exits. The Villani whispered to each other in their soft, musical language. Many were crying. Mothers held their children close. An old Villani male stood near the front of one cell. His fur was gray with age and his antlers were thick and gnarled. This was Elder Therm, one of the leaders of his village. He looked at the Krathix guards with sad but steady eyes. "Why do you do this?" Therm asked in broken Galactic Common, the trade language most species used. "We have done nothing to you." One of the guards laughed. It was a harsh hissing sound. "You exist, primitive. That is enough. You will work in the Empire's fields until you die. Be grateful we let you live." "You should not have come here," Therm said quietly. The guard stepped closer to the force field. "Is that a threat, old one? Will you hurt me with your weakness?" "Not us," Therm replied. "The Guardians will come." Several guards nearby stopped and looked at each other. One of them laughed nervously. "Guardians? What fairy tale is this?" "They are real," a young Villani female said from the back of the cell. "They saved our ancestors. They promised to watch over us. We sent the signal. They will come." The guards laughed louder now, but some of them looked uncomfortable. Every primitive species had legends about powerful protectors. The Krathix had heard these stories 1,000 times. They were never true. "Your guardians are not real," the guard said. "If they were, where are they now?" "Coming," Therm said simply. Up on the bridge, Zreth received a report from his communications officer. The young Krathix looked worried. "Captain, we detected an old transmission beacon on the planet's surface. It activated just before we arrived." "What kind of beacon?" "Unknown design, sir. Very old, but using advanced technology. It sent a burst message into deep space before we could jam it." Zreth's eyes narrowed. "What did the message say?" "We could not decode it, Captain, but—" The officer hesitated. "Speak." "Some of the crew are talking, sir. They say the Villani have been telling stories. Stories about guardians who will come if they are in danger." Zreth turned to face his officer. His voice was cold and sharp. "And you believe in children's stories?" "No, Captain." "Of course not. I just thought you should know. I have raided over 200 worlds," Zreth said loudly so all the bridge crew could hear. "Every one of them had legends. Great warriors in the sky, ancient protectors, gods who would punish the wicked. Do you know how many times these legends came true?" The bridge was silent. "Never," Zreth shouted. "Not once. Because they are stories that weak species tell themselves to feel safe. There are no guardians. There are no heroes coming. There is only the Krathix Empire and the species we rule." The crew nodded and returned to their work, but some of them still looked nervous. There were old stories among the Krathix, too. Stories from the Forbidden Archives. Stories about a species that came from a death world. A species that refused to die, refused to surrender, and refused to forgive. But those were just stories. They had to be. "Prepare for hyperspace jump," Zreth commanded. "I want to leave this system immediately." "Yes, Captain," the navigator replied. "Calculating jump coordinates now. Estimate 5 minutes to jump readiness." Zreth relaxed slightly. Soon they would be far away from this backward planet. The Villani would be sold and he would be rich once again. Another successful mission, Captain. The sensor officer's voice was sharp with alarm. I am detecting a ship. What, where? Coming from the outer system, sir. Single vessel. Small, perhaps a frigate class. Moving at... That cannot be right. What is it? Captain, it is moving at .9 light speed. Without hyperspace. That is impossible. Every head on the bridge turned to look at the main view screen. A small dot appeared in the distance, but it was growing larger very quickly. Too quickly. Scan that ship. Shreth ordered. Scanning, sir. Hull composition unknown. Energy signature unknown. Design does not match any known species in our database. The ship was closer now. It was sleek and gray, with sharp angles and strange markings on its hull. It moved through space with perfect precision, adjusting its course with tiny burns from thrusters that glowed blue-white. Hail them, Zreth said. Hailing, Captain. No response. Fire a warning shot across their bow. The Dominion's fist fired a plasma bolt that streaked through space, passing in front of the unknown ship. The ship did not slow down. It did not change course. It kept coming. They are matching our speed, Captain, the navigator said with disbelief in his voice. They are pacing us. Zreth felt something he had not felt in many years. Fear. Small and cold, it settled in his stomach like a stone. Open all frequencies, he commanded. Broadcast a message. Tell them this is a Krathix Imperial vessel and they must leave immediately. The communications officer worked quickly. Broadcasting, sir. For a long moment there was only silence. The strange ship continued to pace them, staying exactly 1 kilometer off their port side. Then the communications panel beeped. Incoming message, Captain. Put it through. The bridge speakers crackled. Then a voice spoke. It was calm, controlled, and spoke in perfect Krathix, but it had an accent Zreth had never heard before. The voice was not cold like a reptile or musical like many species. It was something else. Something hard and sharp like metal on stone. Krathix vessel. You are carrying sentient beings against their will. This is your only warning. Release them immediately. Power down your weapons. Prepare to be boarded. You have 2 minutes to comply. The bridge was frozen in shocked silence. Zreth found his voice. This is Captain Zreth of the Dominion's Fist. You will identify yourself immediately. By what authority do you make these demands? Another pause. Then the voice spoke again, and this time there was something terrible in it, something that made Zreth's scales prickle with instinctive dread. By the authority of Earth, by the authority of the United Nations Space Corps, and by the authority of a promise made 30 years ago. The Guardians have arrived. Release them now. Down in the holding cells, Elder Therm smiled for the first time since his capture. They came, he whispered, just as they promised. The humans came. Captain Zreth stared at the communications panel like it had just tried to bite him. Earth, United Nations Space Corps? He had never heard of these names. In all his years raiding across the sector, he had never encountered this species. Weapons officer status. All weapons charged and ready, Captain. Target that ship. Prepare to fire on my command. The weapons officer hesitated. Sir, they are very close. If we miss, we could damage our own ship. Then do not miss. Lock on target. Down in the holding cells, the Villani had heard the announcement through the ship's internal systems. They were no longer crying. They stood together, watching the force fields with hope in their large eyes. Tell us about the Guardians, a young Villani mother said to Elder Therm. Tell us so we remember, so our children remember. Therm nodded slowly. He raised his voice so all the Villani in nearby cells could hear. Even some of the Krathix guards stopped to listen, though they tried to pretend they were not interested. It was 30 seasons of rain ago, Therm began. Before I was elder, before many of you were born, a great fire fell from the sky. We thought it was a meteor, but it was a ship. A ship that was dying. The human's ship? Asked a child. Yes, young one. The ship crashed in the Western Valley. We went to see if anyone survived. The ship was broken and burning. Inside we found them. 53 humans. Many were hurt. Some were dying. A Krathix guard snorted. And you helped them? How stupid. Therm looked at the guard with calm eyes. We help those who need help. That is our way. We brought the humans to our village. We gave them food and water. We shared our medicine, though we did not know if it would work on them. We gave them shelter while they tried to repair their ship. What did they look like? Another child asked. They were strange, Therm said. Not like us. Not like any species we had met before. They had no fur, only smooth skin in different shades of brown and pink. They had no claws, but their hands could grip and hold things well. They walked on two legs like us, but they were shorter and much heavier. We learned later that they came from a heavy world. A hard world. They were weak then, the guard said. Broken and dying. Their ship was dying, Therm corrected. They were not. Even injured, even far from home, they were not weak. They worked every day to fix their ship. They learned our language in just a few weeks. They taught us things too. How to make better tools, how to clean water, how to grow crops with better yield. Why did they leave? Asked the young mother. Their ship was repaired after 2 full cycles of seasons. They said they needed to go home. That others of their kind would be worried. On the day they left, their captain made us a promise. Her name was Chen, Captain Sarah Chen. Therm closed his eyes, remembering. She said, "You saved our lives when you had no reason to help us. We will never forget this. We are leaving you a gift." They gave us the beacon. They showed us how to use it. Captain Chen looked me in the eyes and said, "If anyone ever comes to hurt your people, activate this beacon. We will hear it. And we will come, no matter how far, no matter how long. We will come." The holding cells were completely silent now. Even the Krathix guards were listening. "I activated the beacon today," Therm said quietly. "And they heard. And they came." On the bridge of the Dominion's Fist, Zreth was losing his patience. The strange human ship had not moved. It just stayed beside them, matching their every move perfectly. 2 minutes are up, Zreth growled. "They have not complied with our demands. We will show them what happens when you threaten the Krathix Empire." "Fire all weapons!" The Dominion's Fist unleashed its full arsenal. Plasma cannons fired red bolts of superheated energy. Missile pods launched their deadly cargo. Laser batteries focused their beams on the small human ship. The human ship moved. It was so fast that the crew barely saw it happen. The ship twisted in space, rolling and diving with movements that should have torn it apart. Every single shot missed. Every missile exploded harmlessly in empty space. The lasers hit nothing but vacuum. "Impossible," the weapons officer shouted. "Nothing can move that fast. The crew inside should be crushed by those forces." The human ship stabilized 1 kilometer away, exactly where it had been before. "Completely undamaged. Incoming fire," the sensor officer screamed. The human ship fired back, but it did not try to destroy the Dominion's Fist. Instead, with surgical precision, it targeted only the weapon systems. Plasma cannons exploded. Missile pods were sheared away. Laser batteries went dark. In less than 30 seconds, the Dominion's Fist was completely disarmed. Zreth grabbed the arms of his command chair to stop his hands from shaking. "Shields! Reinforce shields!" "Shields at maximum, Captain." The human ship fired again. A single projectile hit the shields. They flashed bright blue, then collapsed completely. The projectile had not even slowed down. It punched through the shield like it was not there. "Shields down," the shield officer reported in a panicked voice. "How is that possible?" Zreth whispered. The communications panel beeped again. The same calm voice spoke, "Krathix vessel. You have fired on a United Nations Space Corps ship. This is now a hostile engagement. You have one more chance. Release the prisoners. Power down all systems except life support. If you refuse, we will board your ship by force. You have 60 seconds. Zreth's mind raced. His ship was disarmed. His shields were down. His weapons officer was looking at him with fear in his eyes. His crew was waiting for orders. "Captain," his second officer said quietly, "perhaps we should—" "No." Zreth slammed his fist on the chair. "We are Krathix. We do not surrender to unknown primitives. Helm emergency hyperspace jump. Any direction. Do it now." "But Captain, we have not calculated—" "Now." The navigator's hands flew across his controls. The ship's hyperspace engines began to charge. The deep hum filled the ship as reality began to bend around them. 10 seconds to jump, the navigator called out. The human ship moved again. This time it accelerated forward straight at the Dominion's Fist. "Captain, they are on collision course. Hold steady. 5 seconds to jump. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Something slammed into the hull with tremendous force. The entire ship shook. Alarms screamed. The hyperspace engines died with a sound like a dying animal. "Report," Zreth shouted. "Hyperspace engines offline. They fired something into our engine core. Some kind of harpoon or anchor." "Visual, give me visual." The main screen changed to show the outside of the ship. Attached to their hull was a large device glowing with blue light. A cable connected it back to the human ship. It was pulling them, holding them in place, making hyperspace impossible. Detach it. Send crew to cut it loose. Captain. The sensor officer's voice was high with panic. I am reading a boarding pod. They launched while we were distracted by the engine shot. Where? Deck 7, Section 4, right next to the holding cells. Zreth felt his blood run cold. All security teams to Deck 7. Defend the holding cells. Kill any intruder on sight. Throughout the ship, Krathik's security forces grabbed their weapons and ran toward Deck 7. They wore body armor and carried plasma rifles. There were 30 of them, all trained warriors. They had fought pirates and rebels before. They were not afraid of one boarding pod. They should have been. The boarding pod had attached itself to the hull like a tick on skin. Inside, 6 humans stood in their battle armor. The armor was dark gray and covered with sensors and weapons. It made them look bigger, stronger, more dangerous. Their helmets hid their faces behind reflective visors. Breach in 3, said the squad leader. Her name was Lieutenant Sarah Chen. She was the daughter of the captain who had crashed on the Villani world 30 years ago. She had grown up hearing stories about the kind people who saved her mother's life. Today she was returning the favor. 2. The humans checked their weapons. Rifles loaded with non-lethal rounds for now. Stun grenades on their belts. Combat knives as backup. 1. Breach. The boarding pod exploded inward, blowing a hole in the hull. The humans poured through like water from a broken dam. The first Krathik security team was waiting in the corridor. They opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts filled the hallway with red death. The humans moved through it like it was rain. Their armor absorbed the shots, glowing hot but holding. They moved with perfect coordination, covering each other, never stopping. The Krathiks fired and fired, but the humans kept coming. They were fast, faster than any species the Krathiks had fought before. They were strong, stronger than species twice their size, and they fought with a controlled fury that was more terrifying than any berserker rage. One human grabbed a Krathik's warrior and threw him into the wall with such force that the metal dented. Another dodged plasma fire with movements too quick to follow, then struck with her rifle butt, knocking the shooter unconscious. Fall back, the Krathik security commander shouted. Fall back and regroup. But there was nowhere to fall back to. More humans were coming. The corridor was full of them now. Gray armor and emotionless visors, moving forward like a tide that could not be stopped. In the holding cells, the Villani watched through the force fields as battle sounds echoed through the ship. Explosions, shouting, the sharp crack of weapons fire, and through it all, moving closer, the heavy footsteps of armored boots. Elder Therm smiled. The Guardians, he said softly. They are here. The battle for Deck 7 lasted less than 10 minutes. Lieutenant Sarah Chen moved through the corridors of the Dominion's Fist with her squad behind her. The Krathik's defenders had made their last stand at a junction leading to the holding cells. 20 warriors with plasma rifles and body armor. They had set up barriers and were dug in behind cover. It did not help. Smoke, Chen ordered. 2 of her Marines launched grenades that exploded into thick gray clouds. The Krathiks fired blindly into the smoke, their plasma bolts lighting up the fog like lightning in a storm. But the humans had thermal sensors in their helmets. They could see perfectly. Chen and her squad moved through the smoke like ghosts. They came from 3 directions at once, appearing out of the fog before the Krathiks could react. Chen herself took down 4 warriors in 6 seconds. Her rifle fired stun rounds that hit with the force of sledgehammers. Each Krathik she hit dropped unconscious before they could scream. The rest of her squad moved with the same deadly efficiency. One Marine took a direct plasma hit to the chest. The armor glowed white-hot and the Marine stumbled. But he did not fall. He steadied himself, aimed, and fired back. The Krathik's warrior who shot him stared in disbelief before a stun round knocked him out. Man down? Chen asked without looking back. Negative, LT. The Marine replied, his voice strained but steady. Armor held. I am good. Push forward. Within minutes, all 20 Krathiks were down. None dead, all unconscious. Chen's orders had been clear. Disable, do not kill unless absolutely necessary. These were slavers and criminals, but humans did not execute prisoners. That was not their way. Secure the area, Chen commanded. Medical team, check the prisoners. I want to know their status immediately. 2 Marines in lighter armor moved past the security team. They carried medical scanners and aid kits. They reached the force fields of the holding cells and quickly worked to disable them. The blue barriers flickered and died. The Villani inside stared at the humans with wide eyes. The armored soldiers were big and intimidating, weapons still in their hands, armor scorched from battle. But when the Marines knelt down to check the prisoners, their movements were gentle. Careful. "Hello," one of the medical Marines said, his voice coming through his helmet speaker. "We are here to help." "Can you understand me?" Elder Therm stepped forward slowly. "We understand you came. The Guardians came." The Marine tilted his head. "Guardians? I do not know about that. But we are the UNSC Marines. We are going to get you home." Chen walked into the cell area. She removed her helmet and the Villani gasped. They had not seen a human face in 30 years, but they recognized the features. The smooth skin. The small nose. The strange eyes that could look hard as stone or soft as water. "I am Lieutenant Sarah Chen," she said. "My mother was Captain Sarah Chen. 30 years ago, you saved her life. Today, we return that favor." Therm's eyes filled with tears. "You remembered?" "We never forget," Chen said simply. "That is what makes us human." On the bridge, Captain Zreth watched his security cameras in growing horror. His entire security force was defeated. The humans had taken Deck 7. They were spreading through his ship like a disease, taking control of section after section. And they were doing it without killing anyone. That scared him more than anything. A species that killed in rage was predictable. But a species that could fight with such violence and still show restraint? That was far more dangerous. It meant they were disciplined. It meant they were controlled. It meant they could choose when to show mercy and when to destroy completely. "Captain," his second officer said quietly, "we should surrender." "Never," Zreth hissed. But his voice lacked conviction. A new alarm sounded. "Bridge access breach," the security officer shouted. "They are cutting through the door." Every Krathix on the bridge grabbed a weapon. They formed a defensive line, all guns pointed at the main door. The metal was glowing red now, heating from the other side. Sparks flew. Then with a terrible shriek, the entire door was torn away. 3 humans in full armor stepped through. They moved their rifles across the bridge, identifying targets with smooth, practiced motions. More humans came behind them, filling the doorway. "Drop your weapons," one of them said. His voice was amplified by his helmet, deep and commanding. "You are all under arrest for crimes against sentient beings. Drop your weapons now, or we will make you drop them." "Fire!" Zreth screamed. The Krathix opened fire. Plasma bolts filled the bridge with light and heat. The humans did not even try to dodge. They walked forward into the fire like it was nothing. Their armor absorbed shot after shot, glowing and smoking but never breaking. Then they fired back. The stun rounds hit like invisible hammers. Krathix warriors flew backward, their weapons dropping from numb fingers. The humans moved through the bridge like a precision machine, taking down each defender in turn. No wasted movements. No hesitation. No mercy for those who chose to fight. Zreth saw his weapons officer get hit and fall. His navigation officer tried to run and was stunned before he reached the door. His second officer dropped his weapon and raised his hands, but it was too late. A stun round caught him in the chest. In seconds, only Zreth was left standing. He held his pistol in shaking hands, pointing it at the nearest human. The human just looked at him through his visor, waiting. You cannot do this," Zreth said, his voice breaking. "We are the Krathix Empire. We rule this sector. You are just human," the soldier said. Then he moved, faster than Zreth could track. The pistol was knocked from his hand. A metal fist grabbed his throat and lifted him off the ground. Zreth's feet kicked uselessly in the air. The human's visor was centimeters from his face. Zreth could see his own reflection in it. He looked small and pathetic. "You hurt people who could not defend themselves," the human said quietly. "You took children from their parents. You made slaves of peaceful species, and you thought no one would stop you." The human's grip tightened slightly. "Not enough to kill, just enough to hurt. Just enough to show that he could kill easily if he chose to. We stop people like you," the human continued. "That is what we do. That is what we have always done. On Earth, we fought wars to end slavery. We spent centuries learning that all sentient beings deserve freedom, and now we carry that fight to the stars." He released Zreth. The Krathix captain collapsed to the deck, gasping and holding his throat. "This ship is now under human control," the soldier announced to the bridge. "All Krathix crew will be held for trial. Any resistance will be met with force. Lieutenant Chen arrived on the bridge a few minutes later. She had removed her helmet but still wore her armor. Zreth looked up at her from where he sat on the floor, his hands now bound with human restraints. "You," he croaked. "You look like the one from the story." "Captain Sarah Chen was my mother," she replied. "She told me about the Villani, how they saved her life, how they asked for nothing in return, how they were gentle and kind. She made me promise that if they ever needed help, our family would come." "But she is one person," Zreth said. How did all of this?" Chen smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "My mother reported what happened. It went into the records. When we detected the Villani distress beacon, the decision to respond took less than 5 minutes. Every human who heard the story wanted to help, because that is what humans do. We pay our debts, and we protect those who cannot protect themselves." She knelt down so she was eye level with Zreth. "You made a mistake, Captain. You attacked a species under human protection. You did not know, but that does not matter. The result is the same. What will you do with us? You will stand trial. Your crew will face justice. And your empire?" Chen stood up, looking down at him. "Your empire is about to learn that slavery is no longer acceptable in this part of the galaxy. We are going to make sure of that." "You are just one ship," Zreth said desperately. "The empire has thousands, millions. You cannot fight us all." "One ship?" Chen laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. "Captain, the Relentless is not alone. Did you really think we would come to fight slavers with just one frigate?" She walked to the main view screen and activated it. Zreth's eyes went wide. In the space around them, more human ships were appearing. He counted 6 frigates, 2 larger ships that had to be destroyers, and behind them, the massive shape of a carrier bristling with weapons and launch bays. "We have been tracking your slaving network for 6 months, Chen said calmly. "Today, at this exact time, 12 human battle groups are hitting every major Krathic slaving operation in this sector. Ship, stations, markets, all of them, simultaneously. By the time your empire knows what is happening, there will be nothing left of your slave trade." She turned back to face Zreth. "You asked what we will do. We will free every slave. We will destroy every slave ship. And we will make it very clear to your empire and every other species in this sector that slavery is over. Anyone who tries to continue will face Earth. And Earth does not lose." Zreth felt something inside him break. Not his body. His spirit. His certainty. His entire worldview. He had believed the Krathics were the strongest, the most advanced, the rulers of the sector. He had been wrong. Down in the holding cells, the Villani were being given medical care. The human Marines had brought emergency supplies and were treating injuries with quick efficiency. The medical bay of the UNSC Relentless was filled with Villani. The human doctors and nurses moved between them with calm efficiency, checking injuries and providing treatment. The Villani were amazed at how gentle these warriors could be. The same hands that had thrown Krathic soldiers through walls now carefully bandaged wounded children. Dr. James Park was examining Elder Therm. The old Villani had bruises from the capture, nets, and had not eaten properly in 2 days. Park gave him water and a nutrient bar that would be safe for Villani biology. "You are malnourished but otherwise healthy," Park said with a smile. Another few days without food would have been serious. "These Krathics do not take good care of their prisoners. They do not see us as people," Therm replied. "To them, we are just products. Things to be sold." Park's smile disappeared. His face became hard. "They are learning differently now. Tell me, Elder, how long have the Krathics been raiding your world?" This was the 3rd time. "The first was 12 years ago. They took 50 of us. Then 5 years ago they took 80. Now 400. And your people have no weapons? No military?" Therm shook his head. "We are farmers and artists. We build with wood and stone. We make music and grow crops. We have never built weapons of war." "We did not think we needed to," Park sighed. "You should not need to. No peaceful species should have to become warriors just to survive." He made some notes on his datapad. "The Krathics kept records of their raids. We found them in the ship's computer. Over the past 20 years, they have attacked over 300 primitive worlds. They have taken more than 1 million sentient beings as slaves." Therm's ears flattened against his head in distress. "So many, yes, but not anymore. Every one of those worlds is being contacted. Every slave is being found and freed. It will take time, but we will do it. Why? Therm asked suddenly. Why do you care so much? We saved your captain 30 years ago, yes. But all of this? He gestured around at the medical bay, at the warships visible through the viewport. This is more than repaying a debt. Park sat down beside the elder. Let me tell you about Earth, he said. Our homeworld. For most of our history, humans fought each other. We had wars over land, resources, religion, skin color. We invented terrible weapons. We hurt each other in ways I am ashamed to describe. And one of the worst things we did was slavery. He paused, his face pained with old guilt. For thousands of years, humans enslaved other humans. We took people from their homes, broke apart families, forced them to work until they died. We treated people like property. It took us centuries to realize how wrong it was. We fought wars to end it. Good people died to make slavery illegal. And even after it was illegal, we spent more centuries fighting against the racism and hatred that came from it. Therm listened carefully. You had slavery too, we did. And it nearly destroyed us. When we finally ended it, we promised ourselves never again. Never again would humans allow slavery, not of humans and not of anyone else. When we went to the stars, we carried that promise with us. Park looked directly into Therm's eyes. So when we heard that the Villani, the people who saved one of our captains with no expectation of reward, were being enslaved? Every human who heard that story was angry. Not just because you saved my people, because slavery is wrong. Always. Everywhere. And humans have decided that we will end it wherever we find it. Even if it means fighting species stronger than you, Park smiled grimly. The Krathiks thought they were stronger. They were wrong. And if there are others out there who think they can enslave people because they have better weapons, they will learn the same lesson. In the interrogation room, Commander Sarah Chen sat across from Captain Zreth. The Krathiks captain was bound to his chair. 2 armed Marines stood guard by the door. Chen had a data pad in front of her, displaying information from the Dominion's Fist's computer systems. Your ship's logs are very detailed, Chen said conversationally. Names, dates, locations. How many slaves you took. How much you sold them for. You kept excellent records. Zreth said nothing. He just stared at the table. 203 raids, Chen continued. Over 20 years. 53,000 sentient beings stolen from their homes. Do you know what happened to them all? Still silence. Most died within 5 years. Worked to death in mines and farms. The Krathiks Empire does not waste resources on keeping slaves healthy. When they die, you just go get more. Right? Zreth finally looked up. It was legal. Under Krathiks law, primitives have no rights. They are resources. Under Krathiks law, Chen repeated. Tell me, Captain, do you know anything about human law? No. Under human law, all sentient beings have rights. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are not privileges. They are rights. Anyone who violates those rights is a criminal. She leaned forward. Under human law, Captain Zreth, you are guilty of crimes against sentience, kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, slave trading, and 53,000 counts of accessory to murder, because you knew what would happen to the people you captured. Human law does not apply to me. Zreth's voice was angry now. I am Krathiks. You have no authority over me. Chen smiled. It was not a nice smile. 6 months ago, the United Nations Space Corps made first contact with the Galactic Council. Did you know that? Zreth went very still. I thought not. The Krathiks Empire is so confident in its power that it does not pay attention to the edges of its territory. You did not notice when human survey ships started appearing. You did not notice when we began talking to the species you call primitives. You did not notice when we started tracking your slaving operations. She brought up a holographic display. It showed a map of the sector with hundreds of red dots. Every red dot is a Krathiks slaving operation. Ships, stations, markets, warehouses. We found them all. And today, right now, we are hitting all of them at once. Zreth stared at the map. So many red dots. So many targets. You cannot have enough ships. We brought 42 warships into this sector. That is not our full fleet. Not even close. And we are not alone. We contacted every species that the Krathiks have been raiding. We told them what we were planning. Do you know what they said? She did not wait for an answer. They said yes. All of them. Species that have never worked together. Species that barely know each other all agreed. Because they all hate slavers. Your empire has been making enemies for centuries. Now those enemies have a friend with the weapons and will to fight back. The empire will respond, Zreth said weakly. They will send the full military. They will try. They are already trying. Chen pulled up another display. It showed Krathik's military ships moving toward their position. We detected their response fleet 2 hours ago. 30 warships. Very impressive. They will be here in 4 hours. Then you have already lost. 30 ships against your small fleet? Chen's smile widened. Captain, did I say we only brought 42 ships to this sector? I said we brought 42 ships for the slaver raids. Our combat fleet is something else entirely. She changed the display again. Now it showed more human ships. Many more. 3 carriers. 8 destroyers. 20 frigates. Full fighter wings. And our newest ship, the Dreadnought Washington. We named it after a human who fought for freedom in our history. Zreth's scales had gone pale. That is a full battle fleet. Yes, and we are very good at fleet combat. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know every tactic, every strategy, every way to win a space battle. The Krathiks have been raiding primitives who cannot fight back. You have forgotten how to fight an equal opponent. She stood up. Actually, we are not equal. We are better. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to carry a message back to your empire. When this is over, when your military has been defeated, you will be released, you and your crew. You will go back to Krathik space and you will tell them what happened here. You will tell them that Earth has arrived. You will tell them that slavery is over. And you will tell them that any species that continues to enslave others will face the full might of humanity. She walked to the door, then paused and looked back. My mother crashed on the Valani homeworld 30 years ago. Her ship was a colony vessel, unarmed, filled with civilians, just trying to find a new home. The Valani could have ignored them, could have killed them and taken their technology. But they did not. They helped. They showed kindness to strangers. Chen's voice became soft but somehow more dangerous. Humans remember kindness, Captain. We remember those who help us when we are weak, and we protect them when we are strong. That is the difference between us and you. You see weakness and take advantage. We see weakness and offer protection. She opened the door. The Valani will never be raided again. Neither will any other species under human protection. Your empire can accept that or your empire can fall. Those are the only choices. Think about which one you prefer. The door closed, leaving Zreth alone with his thoughts and his fear. In the hangar bay of the carrier Defiance, the Valani were being prepared for transport home. Human logistics officers had organized the entire operation with impressive speed. Supply ships would take them back to their world along with medical supplies, food, and gifts from Earth. The Krathik's battle fleet arrived exactly 4 hours later. 30 warships dropped out of hyperspace in a standard attack formation. They were expecting to find a small human force protecting their captured slaver ship. They were expecting an easy victory. They found something very different. Admiral Kovac stood on the bridge of the carrier Defiance, watching the Krathik's fleet appear on his sensors. He was an old man with gray hair and scars from a dozen battles. He had fought in the last war on Earth, the one that finally united all human nations under one government. He knew war. He knew the cost of it, and he knew when it was necessary. Admiral Krathik's fleet detected, his sensor officer reported. 30 contacts, cruiser class and above. They are moving into attack formation. Do we have positive identification on all freed prisoners? Yes, sir. All Valani and other freed slaves are aboard transport ships. Transports have jumped to hyperspace. They are safe. Good. Kovac turned to his communications officer. Hail the Krathik's fleet. All channels. Let them know who they are facing. Yes, sir. Channel open. Kovac took a breath, then spoke with calm authority. Krathik's vessels, this is Admiral James Kovac of the United Nations Space Corps. You are entering a human military operation zone. Your slaver vessel Dominion's Fist has been captured. All prisoners have been freed. All Krathik's crew are in custody awaiting trial for crimes against sentient beings. He paused, letting that sink in. You have 2 options. Turn around and return to Krathik space or continue forward and engage. If you choose to fight, we will defend ourselves. And I promise you, you will lose. What is your decision? On the bridge of the Krathik's flagship Eternal Victory, Fleet Commander Thros listened to the human's words with growing anger. He was a large Krathix, his scales dark red with age, his body covered in scars from combat. He had commanded fleets for 30 years. He had crushed rebellions and destroyed pirates. He had never lost a battle. This human dares to threaten me, Thros growled. Does he think we are afraid of his tiny fleet? Commander, his sensor officer said nervously. I am detecting more ships. Many more ships. Show me, the display updated. The small human fleet they had detected earlier was not small anymore. Ships were appearing from behind the nearby moon, where they had been hiding. 3 massive carriers, 8 destroyers, 20 frigates, and something else. Something huge, what is that? Thross demanded, pointing at the largest contact. Unknown class, sir, it is. It is twice the size of our largest cruiser. Thross stared at the display. This changed things, but he could not back down. The Krathix Empire did not retreat from primitives no matter how many ships they had. All ships attack formation. We will crush them with superior numbers and firepower. For the Empire. For the Empire! His crew echoed. The Krathix fleet accelerated forward. Their weapons charged, glowing with power. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, energy beams. They had the weapons to destroy planets. Surely they could destroy these humans. On the Defiance, Admiral Kovac watched the Krathix fleet charge. He felt a moment of sadness. This did not have to happen. But the Krathix had made their choice. They are not stopping, sir, his tactical officer reported. Then we stop them. All ships, battle formation Delta. Fighters launch. Weapons free. Show them what humans do to slavers. The human fleet moved like a single organism. The carriers launched their fighters, small craft that swarmed out like angry wasps. The destroyers and frigates formed a defensive screen, and the dreadnought Washington moved to the front. Its massive weapons coming online with a deep hum that could be felt through the hull. The 2 fleets met in the empty space between stars. The Krathix fired first. Hundreds of plasma bolts and missiles streaked toward the human ships. It was a massive barrage, enough to destroy any fleet they had ever faced. The human ships scattered. They moved with precision and speed, each ship knowing exactly where to go. Point defense systems opened fire, shooting down missiles before they could hit. Energy shields absorbed plasma bolts, glowing bright but holding, and then the humans fired back. Human railguns fired solid metal slugs at a fraction of light speed. The projectiles hit Krathix shields like hammers, overwhelming them with pure kinetic force. Human missiles were smaller but smarter, dodging defensive fire and hitting weak points in enemy armor, and the Washington's main cannon fired a beam of focused energy that cut through a Krathix cruiser like it was paper. Impossible, Thross shouted as he watched one of his ships explode. How can they have such weapons? His science officer was frantically scanning the human vessels. Commander, their technology is far more advanced than our estimates. Their ships are faster, their weapons are stronger, and their shields are using principles we do not understand. Then we will win with numbers. All ships, focus fire on their flagship. Destroy their admiral. The Krathix fleet turned its attention to the Defiance. 20 ships fired at once. A concentrated bombardment that would have destroyed any carrier in the sector. The space around the Defiance lit up like a small sun as the weapons impacted. When the light faded, the Defiance was still there. Its shields were damaged but holding, and now it was angry. Sir, shield strength at 40%, the shield officer reported. Return fire, Kovac said calmly. All weapons. Let them see what a real carrier can do. The Defiance was not just a ship that carried fighters. It was a weapons platform in its own right. Missile pods along its hull opened, launching a swarm of smart missiles. Railgun batteries fired in sequence, creating a wall of metal death, and its own energy weapons carved through space with deadly precision. 3 Krathix ships died in the first volley. 2 more were crippled and drifting. The rest scattered, their formation breaking as panic set in. The human fighters joined the battle. They were small and fast, piloted by men and women who had trained their entire lives for this. They danced between the larger ships, firing precision strikes at engines and weapon systems. The Krathix tried to target them, but the human pilots were too skilled, too fast, too aggressive. This is Red Leader, a fighter pilot's voice came over the fleet channel. We have multiple targets. Weapons hot, engaging. Blue Squadron confirming. We see them. Let's show these slavers what happens when you mess with humanity. The battle became a dance of death. The Krathix had numbers, but the humans had skill and technology. Every time the Krathix concentrated fire, the human ships scattered and reformed. Every time they tried a flanking maneuver, the humans predicted it and countered. It was like watching a master swordsman fight against a crowd of amateurs. On the Eternal Victory, Commander Thross watched his fleet being destroyed piece by piece. Half his ships were gone. The others were damaged and retreating. His own flagship was barely holding together, fires burning on 3 decks. "Commander," his communications officer said quietly, "Admiral Kovac is hailing us again." "Put him through." The human admiral's face appeared on the screen. He did not look angry or proud. He looked tired and sad, like someone who had seen too much death. "Commander Thros," Kovac said, "this is over. You have lost half your fleet. If you continue, you will lose all of it. Surrender now. Let your crews live. This does not have to be a total slaughter." Thros felt something inside him break. His pride, his certainty, his belief in Krathik's superiority. This human was right. They had lost. Completely and totally. His voice cracked. "I surrender. All Krathik ships cease fire. We surrender." The human fleet stopped firing immediately. Their weapons stayed active, ready to respond if this was a trick. But they did not fire. They did not destroy the helpless Krathik ships. They waited. "A wise decision, Commander," Kovac said. "Have your ships power down weapons and shields. Medical ships are coming to help your wounded. You will be treated fairly and with respect. That is the human way." Thros slumped in his command chair. "We heard legends about your kind, about the Death Worlders who refused to die. We thought they were just stories." "Stories become legends," Kovac replied, "and legends become reality when they are based on truth. Humanity is real, Commander, and we are here to stay." The aftermath of the battle was swift. Human medical ships moved among the damaged Krathik's vessels, providing aid to the wounded. Engineers helped stabilize damaged reactors to prevent explosions. The Krathik's crew watched in confusion as their enemies helped them. "Why did they help us?" one Krathik's officer asked. "We tried to kill them," a human medic shrugged. "Because you need help. What else would we do? Let you die? That is not who we are." 3 days later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The council chambers were a massive structure orbiting a neutral world, where representatives from 100 species met to discuss trade, law, and peace. Today the chamber was full and tense. The council had heard about the human intervention, about the defeated Krathik's fleet, about the freed slaves and the destroyed slaving operations, and now for the first time a human was coming to address them. Ambassador Rachel Chen walked into the chamber with confidence. She was Sarah Chen's older sister, a diplomat rather than a soldier, but she had the same determined look in her eyes. Behind her walked an honor guard of human marines and representatives from the freed species, including Elder Therm. The council members watched her approach, some with curiosity, some with concern,